This is week 3, quote number 2, and my response to it. This is about a researcher who went out to the West and noticed that some Mexicans were even as fair skinned as the English, and that racially the laborers went down by regular shades, growing more and more dark and muddy, with pure Indians at the bottom rung. Now, we were just talking about this in my other class just a few days ago, actually, which is the Latino Cultures course with Dr. Becerra and in sociology. And this is pretty much the same thing. There's a lot of parallels with modern day Mexico in this book that we're currently reading in this education course. So this is another one, still in Mexican society, and actually in a lot of societies, China being one, a lot of Asian societies, and Sri Lanka, this is also the case. Um, there's a sort of a class system that goes down in color, with the more light-skinned people in the upper classes and the darker skinned um, making up the lower classes. Um, what we talked about in my other class about this was that a possible result of this in the case of Mexico is that the wealthier sort of landowners and, if you would say, governmental people, when the conquistadors were in Mexico, they gave their children and wives, or maybe not wives, but women and such, to the conquistadors to procreate with, and these offspring, the more lighter skinned offspring, were supposed to be seen as more valuable because they were a combination of the new conquerors and the higher class. And if you do notice, Mexicans tend to be a lot, in general, lighter skinned than some of the more South American and other Latin races, and this apparently is the reason, although not exactly sure about that. But anyway, this is interesting. Just that this exists in pretty many societies. If you look in China, you'll see a lot of the same. Like I said, the richer people making up the sort of like the tech industry and all, and then moving down in the laborers, a lot of darker skinned people. When I was in Russia, this was the same, although they sort of have their own, as we have the Mexicans, they have Central Asians, and even with them it's kind of strange too. If you go to a restaurant and probably one of your waitresses would be, if they're of Asian descent, they'll be lighter skinned, whereas the darker skinned will be working as cleaners, like cleaning the floor, and even the cooks are a bit lighter skinned. But and then out on the street, the more dirty physical jobs go to a lot of those with darker skin, and this is all within the same nationality, which is kind of strange, seeing as, in my opinion, they all came from the same place, and they're going to a new land, in this case from Central Asia to Russia, and they're all pretty much start off at the same level, but in a few years it ends up being like this again: the lighter skinned at the top and the darker skin down at the bottom. This is interesting. I'm not really sure what conclusions I would draw from this, but this definitely seems to be in the case, as in this quote, around the world. And another point, it's continuing today.